Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth, and this is Carmen Braga, and we're the co-founders of Healing Heart Center. We're the hosts of the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you are watching TVU, and you can find us on the Health and Wellness channel. We're streaming live and on demand.
Hello, and welcome to the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness. I'm Hazel Butterworth, this is Carmen Braga, and today's episode is about expressing or suppressing your emotions. And so we're going to look at ways that we express our emotions. We're going to look at why we don't express our emotions, what stops us, and at the end we'll give you some tips on how we have found to how to express ours and how you maybe can help you to express yours.
Yeah, so last week we talked on what is your illness trying to tell you? And it's whatever's happening on the outside is happening to the inside. And a lot of times we get sick because we are suppressing those emotions and we're not dealing with things. So that is our question today. How do you deal with your emotions? Do you express them or do you suppress them? How about you?
I got a bit of both. I used to suppress them more because for various reasons we'll go into later, but and they did show up as issues in my tissues. So, but now I've learned to, I've found ways to express constructively, and so that I'm not storing and creating that angst in my body anymore. So yeah, you?
Oh yeah, I'm a great suppressor from way back. I grew up that way. That was normal because I was actually told you don't show your emotions. And whenever things came up, I was more encouraged to stuff them down rather than show them. And that just became the norm for me. I didn't know any different, right? Because when you're a little kid, if you're told don't show that, don't cry, don't do this and that, that's how you think things are normal. And that's pretty much how I ended up growing up. And yeah, it caused a lot of issues later on in life that I didn't know how to handle. Right?
And that's not taught so much today. It's showing up a lot. It's very prevalent today because we don't know how to talk about emotions. We don't know how to express them. Hell, we don't even know what it is that we're feeling because we're not used to tapping into that or going within and saying, oh, this is what this feels like, this is what that feels like, because we're not taught to tune into ourselves. So how do we know what an emotion is if we don't know what that looks and feels like for ourselves?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, these are things I think we're expected to just know this stuff, right? And again, when you're a little kid, you don't know how to you may feel it, but you don't really know how to put it into words, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And to tell somebody else, and in my case, I couldn't tell somebody else because I'd get in trouble if I did that. So yeah,
it was true. Yeah. And you had it for different reasons, and we'll look at that shortly, like why we don't speak up or show our emotions. But going back to when you were kids and that, kids naturally will, if you see a little 2-year-old has a temper tantrum, they have ways, the only way they know how, and if they're really mad, they'll stamp their feet. That's actually an explosion of energy that's going, because whatever's in here, it's a way of getting it out, and the only way they know is they'll stamp their feet. That's actually a healthy way.
I did that.
Yeah,
I remember doing that until the point my feet hurt. Like I would stomp them so hard.
And you were saying you have issues with your feet.
Oh yeah,
we talked about that.
Actually, most of my life I have had issues with my feet.
Yeah.
And I remember stomping my feet, and because I was so angry and so upset, but I couldn't express it, and I didn't have that outlet to express it. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I held a
Yeah.
lot of that anger for pretty much all my life.
And then as you grow up and you go through the teenage where, you know, you have this rash of emotions and you have all these new emotions that are coming into your experience. And if you don't have that ability to sit and talk about it, or to even sit with those feelings and begin to understand, this is how I feel when this is happening. This is how I feel when that is happening. This feels good. I enjoy this feeling. That feeling I don't enjoy. We can't even differentiate because they get confused sometimes.
Well,
You
yeah.
know.
Well, and again, like if you grow up in a setting where, you know, say for example, an abusive household, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where dad is yelling at mom all the time, and you know, I mean, it's just not a happy place to be. You actually go into, or at least I did, into my teen years and into my adult years, thinking that that was the way marriage was. That was a normal thing to do, right?
Mhm.
And that's how people treated each other. You know, so it's kind of along the same lines. We just don't
It's
know
a
any
learned
different,
behavior
right?
because
It
that's
is,
all
yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Absolutely. In that
absolutely.
it becomes a habit.
Mhm.
And there's times, I mean, we talked about the old programming is be seen and not heard. I grew up in that, and you had to mind your P's and Q's, and you had to be, you know, you be quiet. You're there, but you didn't have a voice. And that
Mhm.
still happens, and we still feel we don't have a voice sometimes. And there's we're not always honest with ourselves, right? We might be feeling something, even regardless of other people, we might be treating ourselves that way, and we might have that moment, are we really being true and honest with ourselves, how we feel and how we treat ourselves?
Yeah,
And honesty.
yeah. Well, and you're right. I don't think we are honest with ourselves a
No.
lot of the time. And that ends up buggering us up later on in life too. So yeah, it plays a big part.
Yeah, so that question for you is, do you recognize your own emotions? Do you know what they look like? Do you know what that is for you? Can you describe it? Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth, and this is Carmen Braga. We're the co-founders of Healing Heart Center here in Sherwood Park. And we're also the hosts of the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you're watching TVU, and this is the Health and Wellness Channel. So our second thing, okay, why do we not express our emotions?
Well, we talked a little bit about because it's programming.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to. Maybe that we're not being honest.
Yeah. And well, fear, right?
Fear's a big one.
Fear's a big one for many people. What other people might say if
That was
we
a big one for me.
express our emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. What other people might think. You're afraid to speak up. I mean, in class is a good example. You're afraid to speak up in class because you don't want to look stupid, right? You might get the wrong answer. Who wants to be wrong? And I don't want to be stupid. You're afraid to speak up for fear of retaliation or what others might think of you, right?
Or rejection.
Or rejection.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Well, and that ended up actually physically showing up for you, right?
It did for me.
Yeah.
Because if you look at rejection, and this comes up quite a lot for people, and all the times, let's look at that for yourself right now. Think about that emotion of rejection. How does it feel when you get rejected? And then if you have an opportunity, just sort of do a recall and go through your life, not all your life, obviously, but just sort of recall a few times when you know that you were rejected. And it could be as simple as you tried out for a team, got rejected. You sat an exam, got rejected because you didn't get the score. You went for an interview, got rejected. Maybe someone asked you to dance or you asked them to dance, you got rejected. All those times you were rejected, how did you deal with that? How did you process it? But in that moment, how did it make you feel? In that moment, when you get rejected, how does it make you feel?
It's like you get punched in the stomach most of the time.
You bubble burst, right?
Yeah.
You're just so deflated, and you know, you're just knocked for six sometimes because
yeah.
why?
And it just knocks your confidence level
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
notch after notch after
Yeah.
notch too. And I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of people have problems with their confidence. I know I sure did. Didn't have any at all,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah.
That fear of rejection, it's a big one because as we said last week, every experience we have leaves an imprint in your energy field, and eventually they all accumulate together, and then they're drawn into the physical body and they manifest, and that's the issues in the tissues. And there's truth to that because that's what shows up. If we don't process our emotions, if we're afraid to process them, if we don't know how, we don't even know what they look or feel like. Sometimes it's just that, oh, can't go there because we have to be tough, you know, type thing.
Yeah.
And it stops us. So it stops that flow. Anytime we stop our flow of energy, we're creating a discord. We're creating, think of it as a beaver dam in the river. But, you know, it's not, the river's no longer able to flow because there's things that are restricting and constricting it. So it's important to find ways.
Well, and for me, like, like last week, I talked about going through cancer with my husband 4 years ago. Well, for me, from a caregiver's standpoint, that was something that I suppressed my emotions big time because I felt that I had to put on the brave face for him so that he wasn't going to get more stressed out and freaked out. And I'm sure he probably did the same thing for me too, right? That, you know, so it's a two-way street. And I remember, holy smokes, like I went through a lot of emotions during that time. And I remember feeling I had to suck them down.
How long did you suppress them?
Oh, for quite some time, actually. Yeah. Because, well, as you know, it was a long haul for us. It was a couple of years. And that first year, I think, was I suppressed a lot.
And you did for a long time.
Yeah. And anger, too.
Yes.
A lot of anger came up during that time for both of us as well. That got suppressed, too, because, you know, that wasn't the time to deal with it kind of thing, right? So
if you're shelving your emotions, it's not saying it's not okay to do that. There are times where, you know, we do have to be strong in that moment. And when my husband was diagnosed from early in the morning to the end of the day, we were okay. And we got to that point of the diagnosis. I then had to go and inform work, say he's not in work tomorrow. But that's when I took my time out and I just had to let it out because it's, you know, I couldn't keep it in any longer. And so I just took myself away and I had my little cry and then came back. So I was able to that day, you know, get my emotions out the way so that I could be strong and supportive in there because like you, nobody wants, you know, we have to be strong. And there's how many times have you done that? Oh, can't cry now, can't cry now. Can't cry now.
So many times.
You know? I've got to be the caregiver, or I've got to be the strong one in the family, and everyone comes to you because you're the go-to person.
The killer.
Yeah. And so we just store it.
Well, I said to Hazel yesterday, I said, I save my crying till nighttime when I'm in bed because I'm an ugly crier.
And I always make sure there's a box of tissues.
Dead giveaway.
Because I you know, now it's like if it comes up, it's okay to cry, and you know, it's finding that safe and comfortable space. And for you, it's at home at night on your own. You feel that you can do that, right? So for whatever reason,
exactly.
Right?
And everybody has to find their way of doing it. You know, I know somebody, a friend of mine, who her time is crying in the shower. Right? And you know, so you know, everybody's got to have something. So
my treatment room has a nickname, the crying room. Remember?
Yeah.
And Carmen would say to me, "Did you make them cry?"
Yeah, you want to come see her, huh?
And I said, "No, they just felt safe and they released, you know." So there's always tissues handy. So always keep some tissues handy for yourself. Find a place that you can just go off and have that moment to yourself. Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth, and this is Carmen Braga, and we're the co-founders of Healing Heart Center. We're the hosts of the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you are watching TVU, and you can find us on the Health and Wellness channel. We're streaming live and on demand. Okay, so now let's discuss some constructive ways to deal with your emotions.
Alrighty.
All right?
So apart from stamping your feet, which we know kids do,
And it hurts.
it hurts, but even as an adult, I took a sound therapy course, right?
Mhm.
And that was one of the things is you just take a deep breath and you, instead of like that soft, this was like, let it go furious and stamp your foot at the same
Okay.
time. So you can do it as adults as well. And it's real, take a big breath and like, and it's a, and get it out, right? And that works too. That's,
Yeah.
in that moment, private. You don't want to be an adult stamping your feet in the middle of Walmart, but
Well,
yeah.
you could if you want to get on YouTube.
Yeah, probably go viral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adult tantrum. But there are constructive ways. And one of the things that have come across with students is when we say we don't express our feelings, maybe to a relative, a friend, a business, or partner, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's okay to say, because only you know how you feel. Nobody knows how you feel except you. And when we interact, I have no idea how Carmen is interpreting or feeling when we have a conversation.
Mhm.
Same with Carmen doesn't know how I feel. And so even we can say something sometimes and it'd be like, oh. And in that moment you feel, yeah, or you feel, puzzled or something. So everyone has those moments, but it's important to say, when you do this, or when you say that, this is how it makes me feel. And be willing to open up and actually honestly and truthfully say, this is how it makes me feel. That's the truth. You're not trying to do anything except be honest and say, this is how it makes me feel. And I'll guarantee you the person who's at the other end of that conversation has no idea how you feel.
That's true.
From their actions or their words.
Yeah.
Unless you tell them, unless you communicate, how do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we all take things differently.
We do.
Yeah,
It's interpretation. So find a way, and sometimes you have to build up the courage. Sometimes things will happen, and then you'll get the courage to speak up, because fear generally stops us speaking up, right? And just be honest and truthful with yourself. This is how it makes me feel. We talked about writing.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite because I'm a writer. So for me, journaling my feelings, getting things out on paper really helps me a lot. And I find that's my connection to myself as well. And I get really great messages when I do my journaling and stuff that I wouldn't normally have gotten if I just ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's a fantastic way of getting my feelings, my emotions out on the paper. And it's just, it's more tangible for me.
It is
I guess,
tangible. There's several ways of journaling and expressing and getting the insights, and what is that showing you? If you are really angry with someone and you're not used to journaling to that degree, here is something as well. You can still write, and you can be so angry at a person, you do not have a conversation with that person, because it's your emotion and you need a way to express it constructively. And what you can do is you get a loose sheet of paper and you write, I am angry at you. And you pour out your every emotion. And it doesn't matter what words you say, because only your eyes are going to see it. But what that does, it gives you something, as Carmen said, it's tangible, but it gives you an opportunity to actually express that anger, that fear, that worry, whatever it is. It gives you an opportunity to express it. So you're getting it from inside to the outside by writing it. And so you can write that, I'm really mad at you, da, 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 da. And sometimes when you're writing, I'm mad at you because da, 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 you suddenly start to realize that, is that such a big deal? And it starts to diffuse itself. But you get to see it in a different light. And you haven't said a word to that person, because what you're doing is you're processing your own emotions. And it's coming to you to bring awareness to you about something about you. So when you write that angry letter, write it, but then please either rip it up or burn it. But you've had that opportunity to express that emotion.
Burn it safely.
Burn it safely. Yes.
Yeah. Another one I was just thinking was, well, it could be for kids. You see that with kids a lot of times is drawing their emotions.
Art therapy is
right?
brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean adults as well.
Yes.
But with kids, a lot of times that's the best way for them to get their emotions
is.
out
Yes.
is by pencil crayons and.
It is,
you
and
know.
you can just ask them. I did an exercise with a few people
Mhm.
and parents and children, and it's like we talk about an emotion, and then they get to draw that emotion.
Mhm.
And if they don't know what colors to pick, just close your eyes and reach in and use that color. Sometimes you know what color. Red is generally anger, but then they draw, and it was interesting then to look as parent and child what each of them drew and the colors and the
Mhm.
shapes and how similar or how different they were. That's a brilliant one to do
Yeah.
because it's creative, it's expressive, and does not need words.
Mhm.
Right? Drawing is brilliant. So finding an outlet, as you said, go scream in a pillow if it's physical, and you need to just like, or do that stamp, to get it out in that moment.
Mhm.
But you do need to sit with them because we don't want to store those emotions in our bodies.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and breathing is one of the best ways to work through your emotions because you want to get that flow going, right? And because we tend to when we get angry or emotional, we actually it's almost like we stop breathing in a sense because we're such shallow breathers normally, but we get so tensed up that you're almost holding your breath, right?
Well, you see that in panic attacks. And
Yeah.
You see that in kids when they're
Exactly.
crying and
Yeah.
they're not breathing, right?
Yeah.
Because they're holding that emotion. So how many times have we all cried as a child because we didn't know what to do with this emotion and we wanted it to stop, so we stopped breathing.
Yeah.
That's
so it's
breathing.
huge. Breathing is
and
one of the best
stillness
things.
with that, just
Yes.
acknowledging and
Yeah, absolutely.
being
Yeah.
with the emotion.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you don't want to necessarily get rid of the emotion, really.
No.
You actually want to work with it and just breathe into it, look at it for what it is, accept it, allow it to be there, and just let it flow instead of smacking up against you, right? And causing that illness with the body. So we want things to flow naturally, and yeah. So these are just some of the things that we've both used and that have helped us. So hopefully it'll help you guys as well. So because in that moment, as you say, in that letting it flow, you're just allowing it and just acknowledging, in this moment, this is how I feel. I feel angry. Yeah. That's how you feel. There's no judgment. I'm angry. Yeah. I'm sad. I feel guilty. I feel whatever the emotion is. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And then there was something else too about talking as well, talking to somebody, but someone who is supportive and understanding, not gossiping. The worst thing you can do is go talk to your buddy and say, I'm angry at my partner because da, 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 da. Because then that's you're just criticizing and judging. And that is not you processing your emotion. And it has nothing to do with that person you're talking. And that's why earlier I said, when you say this is how it makes me feel, is to have that communication. But you may not have to have that communication with that person if you do your journaling and your letter, because you get that understanding and then it dissolves, because really it's all about you. Yeah. Right? Well, yeah, exactly. And there's always people that are around that can help too. If you don't want to go to family members, there's always professionals that you can talk to. Yeah. There's us. We're here too. Yeah. And so there's always ways to work through these things. And sometimes when we're in the midst of it, we can't see the forest for the trees. So we need some help from outside to get through things sometimes. So, yeah. Okay. So today we looked at emotions, expressing how important it is to express them rather than suppress them. We looked at why when we don't express them, but mostly it's fear, and then some tips on how to express them. So we hope today has been informative for you and given you some tips that will help you through your emotions. And thank you for being with us today. And until next time, be kind to yourself. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye. Bye.